Welcome back, everyone. It sounds like a tall Texas tale that's been turned into a big budget movie.
But this chilling story is fundamentally true. Ned Hibberd is here now with a real-life drama, Ned.
They were an odd couple to begin with, Don and Melinda. When things went bad, they went bad in the most bizarre way. And it happened in an East Texas town called Carthage.
It's called 38 on Swap Shop. Hi.
Hi, Mark.
Hi there.
I have a camper shell for a long bed pickup. It's all aluminum with windows, and I'm asking $50.
Carthage may be small, but it likes to think big.
As a matter of fact, we were the best little town in East Texas one year, Carthage.
The football team won 3 state championships in a row.
We have Texas Country Music Hall of Fame, brings in some celebrities sometimes.
They're inducted under the broad bronze brim of a smiling Tex Ritter.
Waiting just for you.
KGAS 104.3 FM, your sports beat station.
And Carthage claims Major League pitcher Philip Umber, who threw an ultra-rare perfect game less than 2 weeks ago.
Now the Texas Rangers, they're going to be taking on the New York Yankees.
KGAS Radio's Mark Bounds got the post-game interview.
He said President Obama called me, but I'm more ecstatic to get a call from you, Mark. Maybe he was just, fluffing my feathers.
But all fluffing aside,
I wouldn't live anywhere else.
And yet when Hollywood came calling, they only wanted to talk about one thing, that sordid chapter in Carthage history that locals call...
Most of them just call it the TD case.
The Bernie TD story, the Bernie thing, the Bernie situation.
People may have been perplexed about 30-something mortuary man Bernie Tiede and his relationship with an 80-year-old widow named Marjorie Nugent. But if you'd asked the townfolk about Bernie, even after the fact, they'd say...
Well, he was very nice.
Bernie is a likable fella.
He sang in the choir.
He was active in his church.
He could preach wonderful sermons.
At first, people just couldn't believe it.
But our story really begins here in this cemetery back in 1990. It was at the burial of Marjorie Nugent's husband, Rod, that the funeral director, Bernie, made his move.
I'm told that it was a chilly day and that he offered Ms. Nugent his coat, and she invited him back to the house.
Bernie moved in and began stepping out with the wealthy widow. Cruises, Hong Kong, Vegas, and big balances on the American Express.
He resigned from the funeral home to become her traveling companion and bookkeeper.
And the strange relationship worked for a while.
I guess his greed, made him snap. That's the oldest motive since the beginning of time.
Now, it's no secret around Carthage that Marjorie Nugent didn't have many friends, except for her best buddy, Bernie.
Probably Ms. Nugent felt like she had bought and paid for Bernie.
He had explained to us that he couldn't take her being so possessive over him, that he just couldn't take it anymore.
So, one November day in 1996, Marjorie became kind of hard to get a hold of, at least according to Bernie.
She's with her sister, she's at the Mayo Clinic.
But in reality, Bernie had put his possessive pal on ice.
During this time that she was in the freezer, he was spending all her money.
And not just on himself. Bernie's said to have showered the townspeople with gifts.
Houses, clothing, automobiles, jet skis, scholarships.
Nobody much missed Ms. Nugent, apparently. It took 9 months until her sprawling home was searched. The crime scene photos tell the story. A deep freeze unit taped shut. It was a Panola County Sheriff's deputy who found Marjorie wrapped in a sheet from Land's End.
He walked up, he raised the freezer, removed the sheet, and discovered Ms. Nugent's body.
She was sandwiched between the flounder and the chicken pot pies, but the most obvious suspect was also the most generous.
And most people could not believe that he was capable of murder.
You're as cold as ice. And of course, Bernie Tiede had a reasonable explanation. But under questioning, he crumbled.
Finally, Bernie said, "All right, I shot her."
In the garage, 4 times, in her back.
He drug her body to the freezer, took some of the food out, put her body in, and put food on top of her.
And that's how Marjorie Nugent traveled to the Dallas Medical Examiner, still in the freezer, powered by a generator in the bed of a pickup.
I think it was 2 days for her to thaw before they did the autopsy.
Which provided plenty of evidence, says Panola County DA Danny Buck Davidson. Throw in Bernie's statement to police, and the cops had him cold.
As we got into the trial and people realized Bernie had confessed, public opinion swung the other way.
Now, Danny Buck didn't know it then, but in the crowd at the courthouse where Bernie Tiede was sentenced to life in prison, a young Texas film director named Richard Linklater.
Danny, he said, "You don't remember, but I was with you, and the newspapers were asking you, well, how can you prosecute Bernie? Because the people in the town thought he was such an angel." And said, "You said, he's an angel, all right, an angel of death." He said, "I thought that was so cool, I was going to put it in my movie."
Everybody's describing Bernie Tiede as an angel.
The nicest fella I've ever met.
He didn't do it. He's an angel, all right. An angel of death.
That dog don't hunt.
Jack Black.
Which brings us to Bernie, the movie. It opened last weekend, but not necessarily in a theater near Carthage.
Very lonely person. She needs someone.
We're kind of resentful of it, you know, but that's my personal opinion.
Once again, in this town of 6,700 souls, folks are split over Bernie.
It's entertaining.
Room service.
I didn't tell you it was historically correct, but it is entertaining.
And it certainly proves, as if we needed more proof, that truth is indeed stranger than fiction.